My full name is Margaret Rose Mickleborough. My maiden name before I got married was Carol, but most of my life people have called me Margie. And that nickname has pretty well stayed the same all the way through. My father's name was Michael Allen Carroll. My mother was Anna Carolina Romano, and she was born in 1913. Anyway, I was born in 1937, and my mom died when I was 5 years old, and my dad was in the Army. So we grew up in a residential school because, you know, there he was gone, and anyway, we all survived. This is just before my mother died, and my dad was in the Army. My mother is holding my youngest sister, Lily. Helen is sitting on my dad's lap. The oldest son, Danny. Oldest daughter, Eileen, and that's me sitting in the chair. This picture is the last picture we had of Dad and us in that house we were talking about that he bought on Angus Street. And shortly after that, I took a modeling course at the time, and my sister Helen laughed. She said, "I can remember that beautiful outfit you had, and you had high heels on." I said, "Yeah, but I don't wear those things anymore." But this was sort of the last picture we had as a family before my brother went to Ottawa and my sister got married. And my two younger sisters went to Davin School from where we lived. And that's where I met Wayne. It was on the 22 block Angus Street. So he was going to Belfair at the time, and I was going to Central Collegiate. And so Dave and I used to walk to school together quite often because Dave went to Central. And anyway, I'm trying to think of how the first time I met Wayne, but I think it was through Dave. Dave spent a lot of time at Wayne's house. So, I think it was through Dave that I met Wayne. And I think the first time he asked me out was to the drive-in. Remember the drive-in theaters? that was a long time ago. So, took a little while. He asked me out and started going out, and eventually got engaged. But in the meantime, I went into nurses training after high school. And that was in 1955. And I graduated in 1958. And I think we got engaged I think it was around 1956. So I can remember when it was a Christmas Eve and I was working. And, we were over at his mom and dad's place. And all of a sudden he asked me to marry him. And my response was, "Wayne, I've got to be back to the nurse's residence in about 15 minutes, because I'm working tonight." Yes, this ring here. Yeah, same old ring as I had then, which is about 65 years ago. So anyway, graduated in September 1958, and we got married in May of 1959. Here's our wedding picture. And that's Mark and Jen's wedding picture. Well, I guess in many ways, he had a lot of patience, I think, at times. Whenever he went to do something, I think he tried his best at whatever he worked at, and you know, probably not given credit sometimes for some of the things he did. We lived in a basement suite way out on Broadway Avenue East. Yeah, it was a beautiful suite. It was in a brand new house. So the next March, Mark was born, our son, and we had a pretty good year. In fact, I was expecting another child a year later, but he was stillborn. So that's when the doctor said, you've got to get out of the operating room, you know, if you want to have more children. So I did, and at the time, the Department of Social Services was advertising to hire nurses because there weren't any social workers in the province. Anyway, I was really surprised when they hired me so quickly, but said you had to have a driver's license. Well, I phoned the government up and I said, if I want a job with the government, I have to get my driver's license within 3 days. So the guy said, okay, we'll make an exception for you. So it was an interesting life. And after that, things moved on pretty quickly, and we went from there to a little house on the 22 block Queen Street. We rented a house there, and well, it had an old fireplace. We didn't use it, but it had it there, and the kids used to play hockey, and they'd use the fireplace as the goalpost, shooting the. I mean, it wasn't a heavy puck or anything, you know. Memories like that come back, you know, every once in a while. And it just seemed every job I got after that, I was on the road a lot. It was a job I enjoyed. Even flying around up north, I had to charter planes to fly into, you know, Buffalo Narrows or Uranium City or wherever I was going. So that was interesting. But then in 1977, I was appointed Director of Federal Provincial Relations for both social services and health, and that was negotiating with the federal government. So that even took me farther away from home, you know, going to the different capitals in Canada. And then in '87, I retired from the government, because I know when Mark went away to university, I said, boy, it's going to be boring around here. And he said, Mom, go back to university and take some university classes. And that's when I went into the admin program. But it was strange walking down the hall in the university and kids saying, hi, Mrs. Mick, how are you today? You know. This is the year I got my master's degree in administration. That was, what, 1987. I got my Master's of Administration, and then I retired. And that's when I volunteered with the Cancer Society for 2 years before I taught business admin classes for the university. And I was really surprised. I didn't think I would be a teacher, but when the dean of admin phoned me up and said, would you consider it? I thought, that sounds pretty good just for the fall semester, you know. So I enjoyed that until '96. So anyway, it was quite the life that we had, and you know, I do feel sorry for families who have one parent on the move and traveling all the time. And because although I went to a course, I can remember once at UBC, the government sent me out there for a 2-week course. And I flew home over the weekend, when I think of it, to vacuum the house, wash the clothes, make lunches for the next week, you know. You always sort of felt you should be doing more, even though these things were going on. Well, then we were lucky for the next about 10 years or so before he got so sick. We had spent some time in Florida, Arizona. You know, he loved San Diego. He loved the cable cars in San Francisco. But the one trip I really remember was a South Pacific tour that started in Hawaii and spent some time there, and then flew into Fiji, and that was really a country and a half to visit, you know. It was amazing. But then we flew up north and spent a few days there and went out to the Barrier Reef, and glass bottom boats where you toured the Barrier Reef and saw the different fish and the growth and everything. And from there flew into Ayers Rock. At that time, that was way many years ago, there was only 2 hotels in that whole area there. And we went for a hike one day up Ayers Rock. In the evening, they had a beautiful sort of a cocktail hour out in the desert there. And it just reminded me, the sunset reminded me of Saskatchewan, you know, you can see for so many miles. And then went to Tahiti for about 5 days on the way home. And that was, you know, we went to a second island there where they were growing plants from practically everywhere in the world. Yeah, you know, they took them in there, and it was a beautiful, beautiful area. But anyway, I would recommend that tour for anybody alive. It was just so amazing. I mean, it's something you never forget. Seeing all those countries and different people, and yeah, it was truly great. No, what I like the most is being outside and walking. I love nature. I could spend all my time outside, you know. And Wayne was really quite the gardener, so we spent a lot of time out in the garden. I mean, he had cucumbers and tomatoes like you wouldn't believe. You know what he did? He got a tattoo with the name Margie on it, a bird carrying a heart and a little banner, and it had my name on it. Him of all people who couldn't stand needles or tattoos or anything, and he goes and gets one. So there's a story for you. Do you remember that tattoo? So there's a thing to remember. I won't tell you any more crazy stories. But that's sort of the story of my life. And then Wayne and I had a few good years before he got quite ill, and his mobility was challenged. So anyway, we stayed at home for most of that time. And took care of him, yeah. Was his caregiver, and was happy to do it, you know. I mean, you know, at my age now, I'm just happy I can still live in my own home and do all the things I have to do. And I mean, it's pretty basic. You got to eat right, exercise properly, and you know, stay healthy. But as human beings, we never know, you know, what'll happen the next day. So take one day at a time and wake up every morning and say, gee, I'm lucky I'm still here, I'm still breathing, I just love where I'm living, you know. And a lot of people aren't at my age. So, oh, my best friend is Joan. We got to be friends when we were 5 years old. And she just turned 85, and I'm going to be that age shortly. And here's my girlfriend and I, Joan and I.
Oh, your friend, right?
Yeah, that would be about 20 years ago. We talk on the phone a lot. We're not into the digital age of poking things around. So.
It's amazing to be friends with someone for almost 80 years.
Oh yeah, just it truly is. You know, we were always so close, This is Wayne and I in the 70s. And that's Mark when he was about 12, and Wayne and I outside. And he used to, when his dad died in 1974, we were driving into Regina, and he said, I want to be buried beside Mom and Dad. I'm going to go out there tomorrow and buy a plot. I said, Wayne, no, it's too early. I'm doing it. You come with me. I'm buying a plot. So our plot is close to where his mom and dad were. So we used to go out there, and his dad was a character. He'd say, now on a hot day, you come and see me, and you bring a bottle of beer and throw it in the pond, and I'll go over and have a sip. So this is a picture of Wayne and I right across the road from where we're going to be buried. Well, my name's on there already, you know. So as I say, I'm so fortunate and lucky. I mean, it's just, you know, live and learn over the years. There's three main things in life that, you know, that you have to really believe in, and it's honesty and respect and kindness. Whether it's a friend or a neighbor or just a person you meet. Yeah. Well, you know, I always say to my son, if you find me dead in bed some night, you can tell yourself I died a happy person if I can stay here, you know, forever. So what more can you ask for in life? Nothing.